And you're still watching Prime Morning. Our colleague Emmanuel Jivenu went out for this particular documentary. It's very touching. Now, when we talk about child abuse cases in Ghana here, when we look at the year 2022, we had 26 cases reported on child abuse, and 23 out of the 26 were actually sexually abused cases. This is quite worrying and alarming, and you will ask, what is leading to all of these? Hence, my colleague went out there to speak to a less privileged little girl who has lost her mother, and she's living with her aunt and her aunt's husband. Actually, I wanted to say her father because it's not her father, but her aunt's husband. And this young girl actually told her story about how she's been sexually harassed. Take a look at this documentary, and when we come back, we'll talk more about it.
Then he comes to where I'm sleeping. When he sees that I'm asleep, then he tries to use that advantage to sleep with me. But I wake up, so I don't allow him. At times too, when no one is in the house, then it's only the two of us. Then he told me that I should allow him to do one. He won't tell anybody about it.
This is the distressing story of 16-year-old Maushi, not her real name. She has been forced to endure this abuse on countless occasions. This nightmare began when she lost her mother at a tender age. Maushi assumed she would be loved and cared for, but she's had to endure chains and strings of sexual harassment and unsolicited touches from her auntie's husband. The place she hoped would be a safe haven for her is now a place of torment.
At times he tries to sleep with me, but if I don't allow him, then he changes mood towards me. He gives me money that I should allow him to sleep with me. If I don't, then he takes back the money from me.
Reporting sexual harassment can be a difficult decision, especially for minors. The fear of being victimized and stigmatized by society forces many young girls to recoil. Accusing her auntie's husband of harassment was difficult, but she gathered a lot of strength and confronted the issue. Sadly, her auntie did not take her disclosure seriously.
The first time we started, I told my auntie, but she didn't believe me. She thought I was telling lies because I was a small girl. And she was always saying that there's a small girls like me, I don't know anything, so I shouldn't be saying that.
The harassment persisted after she reported to her auntie, and eventually her auntie witnessed the truth.
The last day, okay. It's Miss Midi minute to film. Shade.
Okay,
So, Papa and Person Neda. Nanda. In the minute to film me who sign this say, or Peso, or yes, maybe son, I will say, or now, like a toy baby behind. No one in the shade. Son of Papa Catherine. I am not Peso Ben Aqualan. Or Peso Ben Saparanada, tell of Peso Ben. Timothy, Namusa say, a dinner or Quayawacolano, or so, or Yenishe.
In fact, what made her believe Maushi's story was that her own sister, who once lived with them, also complained of similar sexual advances from her husband.
This Obetramen chain. Obetramen chain. Betramen chain be 1 year. No, honestly, I no complain. CHRAJ. Say, Papa and person need be. Then Casa, tell me that na Casano. I said, me need baby, ye, person me man and person me baby dinner, the Lanka must fit my finishing. I say, Sanya mana or ye, a Musunia mana say, and yes, and I'm in the bar by one so. I said all day, you'll be to me.
People who commit sexual abuses often target vulnerable individuals due to poverty, age, gender, or disability. Poverty is among the root causes of sexual harassment and makes it difficult for victims to report it.
I told my grandmother, then my mother's 2 sisters, they are 4. So all of, in fact, the family members, my mom's side, they all know about it.
What did you tell them?
I told them what the man has been doing to me in the house, and as for my grandmom, I told her that the man tries to sleep with me anytime there's no one in the house or we are asleep.
As me, yes, my report. But it's in the memo, so I didn't mammy. Colana Mena a one. Me, yeah, and I say, your own coba. Now, when you be man colan to school. Until I not mean to me. Eh, incident per se. I can't be a school more. Then the Ufim Chaya. Now say, Bibia, I am.
Sexual harassment can have a significant and long-lasting impact on victims' mental and physical health. Maushi is traumatized by the harassment, and the painful experiences are robbing her of a happy childhood.
Whenever he comes home, they will be insulting me. Even if I've not done anything, they will be insulting me. They will be telling me that I'm a witch. I came to their family to destroy the family. They used to be saying that when I finish BC, I should pack my things and get out from the house. When he's around, I'm not comfortable. So anytime he's in the house, I get out from the house.
When do you go?
Either to my friend's house or I'll be walking inside the area, just like that. It's even affecting my studies because at times when I go to school, that's the only thing I'm thinking about.
She is in her final year. In a matter of weeks, the 16-year-old would be sitting for the Basic Education Certificate Examination, BCE. It is a life-defining test in her dream of becoming a nurse aloft. But that dream is ebbing away by the day.
I'm in Form 3 and it's every 2 weeks for us to go write BC. But I don't know how I'm going to prepare for the BC.
Why?
Because I'm owing school fees and registration fee. And the equipment for me to write the BC, I don't even have one. When I add the school fees and the registration fee together, I'm owing $470.
Unfortunately, her auntie's business has collapsed, making it difficult to foot her niece's school bills.
My auntie takes care of me, but she can't provide the financial needs for me.
What about the husband?
Husband, he doesn't take care of me, he takes care of his children because he says I'm not part of his children.
Kind of 4.7. I'm yes, and you could switch Cabian with a Misaka. I could chance and how much I say, Yapamon. I say, come within you have so much chance and I'm my school. It's Nina Sky. I say, maybe you must say, I'm a tomato snare. I'm going to be an albummaker. Jamama too. Tiamma say me
Maushi is constantly sacked. Registration and school fees of 470 Ghana cedis. She's living with anxiety due to the uncertainty of her future. Despite the adversities thrown at her, Maushi is determined to succeed in her academic pursuit.
Monday I went to school, they sacked me. Tuesday to I went, they sacked me. Then today to I went. I want to go because it's some few weeks for us to go write BC. And my teacher too told me that the rest of the week we are going to use to solve past questions. So I want to be there so that I'll know the part of questions they are answering. That's why I've been going to school.
Well, with the academic performance, excellence, she's very good. In fact, all the subjects. Yeah, she doesn't have every subject like that, but she's good in all the subjects. In terms of expression and stuff, she's very okay. It's all about financially. Sometimes when she comes to school, she doesn't have money for feeding, sometimes not even pocket money. When she comes to school, sometimes she feels so down, but she's someone that she knows what she's going for. So anytime you see her, she's learning. Anytime you see her, she's learning. Even though she will be in a sad mood, but she forced to do something for herself.
All I want is someone who will help me pay my school fees and send me to school so that I'll become a permanent person in the future.
With the auntie now unable to protect her from the husband, Maushi also needs state shelter for the time being. Emmanuel Jivenu's report for Joy Prime.
Those that know you will trust in you, not in horses and chariots. By the arm of flesh, no man can prevail. No man, no man, no man, no man. My confidence is you. What is hard for you. It can never ever resist. Oh, you do not lie, you do not feel. What is hard for you to do? It doesn't exist. It can never ever resist. Oh.
What is hard for the Lord to do? Of course, there's nothing too hard for the Lord to do. The difficult ones don't exist, and that's the story of this young lady. She's crying on God for God to help her. But you know what? God works through man to help her. And so we are asking you that you're home to also support this young lady. If you heard what her teacher said, she's a very brilliant young girl, but unfortunately, finances are not helping her to get to the top. So if you can contribute, why not? We can take as little as 50 Ghana cedis, even as little as 10 Ghana cedis, whatever your contribution is. Contribute so that we can help pay her BECE fees and she can be able to write the exams. Not just that, we need a place for her to live as well. We need a shelter. From her auntie's point, she can't do anything about it because her auntie, is not financially stable. She's struggling, and so they all have to be dependent on this man. And this man seems not to be stopping. And the auntie has actually noticed it, but she can't do anything about it because they also have a child together. What can we do to support this young lady? If you have a place, let's try and get her a shelter. Let's get her a home. Let's try and pay her bills. Let's try and help her to be able to write this BC. This conversation is definitely going to be a good one because I know that you will send in your contributions. You send in your messages as well. Send in your message to our WhatsApp line and definitely we'll read it on air. If you want to contribute as well, just let us know. We'll definitely give you the short code for you to contribute. I have my guest seated. I have Godfrey Ebo Ahin. He's a public education focal person for CHRAJ, Greater Accra region. He's seated right here. Good morning, Godfrey.
Good morning, Mom.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Great.
I'm good.
And also joining us via Zoom, we have two top officials who are joining us. We have Bright Apia, who is Executive Director for Child Rights International. He's joining us this morning. Hello, good morning, Bright.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm very well, and you?
I'm fine, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Great. We also have Gloria Kankam, who is joining us also via Zoom. Gloria is the Communication, Advocacy and Networking Manager for Women in Law and Development in Africa. That's WILDEF Ghana. Good morning, Gloria. Gloria, kindly unmute yourself for us if you can hear me. All right, I'll come back to you, Gloria, so we can have a conversation. But let me start from the studio. Let me start from the rep from CHRAJ. That's Godfrey. Godfrey, after watching this, what's your take on it?
Well, I want to say good morning to your viewers and also to my superiors, the regional director and then the commission of CHRAJ. It's a sad story and it's a reflection of the society in which we find ourselves now. This is not an isolated case. It's something that perpetuates among all our communities. But we thank God for the services of Joy Prime and your journalists who went out there to fish out for this single person to tell her story. Many a time we come across some of these stories, and because it has not really happened to us personally, we gloss over them. But gradually, they are coming close to our doorsteps. And for me, it's a reflection of the collapse of our family support system. Because listening to her, the fact that she lost her mom at the age of 4, which is a natural disaster, it happens to anybody. We call it an act of God. She has no hand in it. And then she's left with a family, an auntie who takes her up. I think the background information even indicates that she had been moving from place to place until finally she found herself
with her auntie.
With her auntie at this age. And it's rather unfortunate that those with power, those with the resources, who have been endowed by the benevolence of God to extend a helping hand to those in need, also want to take advantage of that situation. Because this is a pathetic story. Somebody with such a bright future, even with this circumstance, she still has hope. She has zeal to be able to do something for herself. All she needs is support. And you want to sleep with her before you would give her the support. It happens. Somebody had finished university. She wants to get a job. Somebody wants to sleep with her before she get a job. You want apprenticeship. You have to give something. It's like nothing goes for free. And that adage that there's nothing like free lunch, it seemed to be whittled down to the barest basic unit of our society, and it's sad. So for me, it's a disgrace to us. It's a disgrace for us. It's a shame that at this moment of our time, when we are promoting the rights of children, we are promoting every year on the 25th or 26th of November, we celebrate World Day Against Violence Against Women, the Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Day, culminating into the Human Rights Celebration Day. And we still have people, as much as we are trying to take people off the street and give them a better life, we still have people right under their door, like under the umbrella. They are perpetrating such, acts, and it's a shame. So we have to actually set up. For us as an institution, as a human rights institution, we always want to protect the rights of children. So we want to look at who is the duty bearer, and who owes that duty to the child. And under this circumstance, the aunt. But throwing your arms in the air and crying foul that you cannot help is not enough, because she has a duty under the Children's Act to protect the child and take her away from harm's way. And remember, sexual and gender-based violence is any harm inflicted on a person because of their gender.
Right.
Assuming this lady were to be a boy, I don't think this man would have extended such a desire onto her. So it
depends on the man's sexuality, because there are some men who are bisexual and they actually do harass young boys as well. Let me go on a Zoom, and I hope Gloria, I can hear Gloria now. Hello, good morning, Gloria.
Yeah, good morning, Rosalind.
Great.
Good morning, everyone.
It's good to hear from you finally, because your network was a little bit unstable. Gloria, what's your take on this particular video?
Okay, so unstable because I'm out of Accra, but that is fine. So it's not a good morning at all, because this is the situation we are having every day. Every day. Mousy is just one out of the million. Every day we are receiving these cases. And like Ebo said, at the end of the day, who cares? So this brings to mind the study we had with one of our organizations, Girls Excellence Movement. I'm sure she was on your station some time ago. And that was sheltered yet exposed. So you are sure you are in a home where you are supposed to be safe, but you are not safe. And this is what is going on. Girls, fathers, as I'm talking now, we have cases of fathers having sexual relations with their daughters, some over 4 years. And as for stepfathers, it's 1 million. And these girls are between the ages of 9 and 16. And the same way, if they complain or they want to challenge and to protect themselves, they are told your education will not be taken care of. So these are real issues that we have to take. It is not about us here now, but it is about Ghana. In the last report that Ghana sent to the Commission, the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that was all the way in 2014. One of the responses Ghana gave, State Ghana, gave to the UN was to ensure that we eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls, and also about the alleged witches camp. Up to today, let's ask ourselves, how much have we even put in the domestic violence fund so that Mausi can access the fund? How much have we put into place to get the shelters running? effectively so that Mausi can go there. We won't be sitting here looking for support for her, no. The state institution, our laws have it in there. How we are not implementing, I cannot tell. And then we are not even collaborating.
Gloria,
This
I like
young
that
girl
you're
is-
saying that the state has a role in there. But you see, the thing here that we are dealing with is poverty. These people feel that, you know, although the state has it, we will struggle if we should go to the state to seek assistance with regards to this sexual harassment. And then what happens next? Who is going to feed us? And this is what the auntie is complaining about. I'll come back to you, Gloria. Let me speak with Bright. Hello, Bright.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, Bright, let's talk about, you know, the number of children who are brave enough to report such cases in Ghana here. What's the data looking like?
Well, first of all, let me appreciate Joy Prime for the professional manner they shot this particular video. It is rare for us to see this kind of video being shot, especially looking at the circumstances that they did it and how they were able to hide the identity of the child. And I need to commend you.
Thank you.
For that. For me, there is the data is a bit problematic in the sense that on a daily basis, even from our level as organization, even as an NGO, almost every day we receive cases not less than 3 every day on matters of this nature. And where we have to step in, we do that. And where we have to make referrals, we do that. But at the national level, I'm unable to speak to some of the data because the systems that we have is not appropriate enough to receive some of these issues and then resolve it. So it is very difficult for you to get the national data on some of these issues. It's just the reported cases that we have, and I'm sure CHRAJ would have data, Department of Children will have data, Social Welfare will have data. But in terms of having a national data, I've not come across it yet. And looking at the documentary, I feel that the immediate thing that we need to do, even before we have any discussion on it, is to provide a certain level of support for this child, especially her right to education, for her to be able to complete her exams, and then any other issues will be dealt with later. So it is important that we do that immediately.
Yes.
And sometimes support that we render to children, we are unable to discuss it on air. But I'm sure if we after the program, there's something that we need to do, we can do so immediately for her to have the right to education. And for us, it falls squarely within our work. So for me, that is the most important thing now. And then again,
thank you so much for doing that, Bright. Thank you so much.
Then again, there's a need for us to also get a clinical psychologist to have engagement with her to prepare her mind for the exams ahead of her. Because if you listen to the teacher and the account that the teacher gave in terms of how quiet sometimes she can be, but she's determined to learn, we should not take that quietness for granted. A lot of things might have been going through her mind, and we cannot ascertain the level of that. So there's a need for us to also prepare her mind for the journey. And for me, if you're able to do these two things, then we can come back to discuss any matter relating to policy, relating to what the state is doing, what the state is not doing, so that at least she has somewhere that she is. I'm told that somebody we have taken her in, and I think that if there's a need for us to also support that woman to provide this emergency response in the time that we are in, I think it will help this little girl to gain her confidence within for that period. And then after that, if there is anything that we can say from our organizational point of view, we will let you know.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for telling us what you do for her. And this is very important because this is the needs for now. And so we are glad that you're going to do this for this young girl. Let me come back to the studio and speak with Godfred about it. Now, Godfred, looking at it, you know, from what Bright said, he doesn't really have the data, but we are recording these numbers on daily basis where more children are reporting their cases. We're talking about even those who are brave enough to report. There are so many out there who are not brave enough to report. Let's talk about what poverty is doing, the role of poverty in child abuse.
Okay, so like I said earlier on, that those with the resources, because when you look at Ghana, we are still saddled with basic needs. We have, once in a while, people break through and then they tend to look for self-esteem and self-actualization. But majority of our cry is for survival, basic needs. So even those who are in gainful employment, we all cry over limited resources. And then we get to a situation where people are not even in employment at all. So poverty, yes, when you look at the account of child labor, there have been, I think, CHRAJ will even attest to the fact that there have been instances where children have been sold from fishing communities to child labor because some of the parents will give them out to these men for them to be used as bait for fishing and then pay them some money back home to fend for their children. It is a daily occurrence. And it looks like poverty keeps going up by the day. The system in which we find ourselves now, most people are losing their economic power, as it were. I mean, resources to trade with. Some are losing jobs, some businesses are collapsing, and all that. So even if you want to extend a helping hand, you are not able to do that. And because children are among the vulnerable groups in society, most of the time we tend to take advantage over them. For instance, a child who is staying with, let's say, an auntie, like we are witnessing now. Now, the man, the auntie's husband, says he's not the child, so he's concentrating on his children. Now, the question now that we want to ask is who then becomes the custodian of this girl? And as at this moment, the auntie who is the rightful
relative, yeah.
Yes, the rightful relative is not in the position to, where is the child's father? You understand? Because the law says that a child has a right to grow up with the children, grow up with the parent. And the law also says that, parents have a responsibility to take care of their children. It is in the Criminal Offences Act, it is in the Children's Act, that as a parent, you have a duty, a responsibility to take care of your children. And when you fail to do that, you are even criminally liable. But are we holding them responsible for that? You understand? So as for the issue of poverty, rural-urban migration has exacerbated the situation. Now that we are looking at coming to the city to look for greener pastures, we all fall prey to some of these things. We come unprepared. Back home, there are no industries, there are no businesses, there are no support systems. In those days, when we were growing up, we had aunties and uncles who were in the cities. And whenever they come back home, they bring us stuff. And those were things that encourage us. So even on your long vac, in those days when we used to have long vac, like you go first term, second term, third term, it's a long vac. You go to visit your uncle or your auntie somewhere in the city. And by the time you are coming back home, you come with provisions, some stuff that will take you back to school. So you were assured, as a child going to school, you don't think of how you are going to survive. But this child,
has to think
in
about
this state, how she will feed herself, how she pay her school fees, is her burden. Let alone think of preparing to go write an exam. Even we as adults, whenever the issue of examination comes up, you become scared. Let alone a child, 16 years, who has not had any experience of that sort. So the poverty cycle, that it has become cyclical, and I think it's about time.
People are taking advantage of it,
yes.
right?
Yes, it's like he who calls the piper pays the piper, calls the tune. So if I can afford nothing for something, the lawyers have an expression: you can not put something on nothing and expect it to stand. You understand? So our base, support base, we have a family, we have a child and family welfare policy. And that policy was developed by the Ministry of Gender and then the Department of Children. That policy was supposed to curb some of these things by locating immediate relatives of significant others of the families and then try and trace and link them to support services. But that policy is there and we are not implementing it. And there are also challenges regarding resources and all that. So it's quite pathetic, but it's about time as a state we look at the welfare of children very critically. We have made provision for it by law, but we have to implement it and walk the talk.
I like that. Gloria. Hello, Gloria. Yes, let's talk about the criminal aspects in this whole case where, you know, he has harassed her sexually, threatening her that if he doesn't do anything with her, he's not going to give her money to feed herself and all. Let's also talk about if, you know, this is, you know, by law, a criminal thing, and we know that it is actually, what can happen to this man?
Thank you to Bright for the support he's going to give. I'm so glad and excited about that, especially the psychosocial support. At the moment, Ghana has not ratified the convention, ILO Convention on Harassment. It came into place in 2019. We have not ratified. But if you are going by the Domestic Violence Act and the Criminal Code, at the moment, they'll say the perpetrator will be arrested. And at the moment, every time the person is arrested, they give bail. And when they give bail, you never get to hear at the end of the story anymore. So these are critical issues that we are dealing with. But anything in terms of harassment, rape, defilement, incest, it's 7 to 25 years. But like, I don't know how to explain. Bright mentioned that on daily basis he's receiving 3. The same thing with us also. Ours is a digital legal aid. And we have pro bono lawyers that support to give legal advice, provisional legal advice and representation. But now, for about 2 years now, the moment the case is taken to the police, they give the bill. And then when you question, they will go like, everything now in this country is bailable.
Well, is the person not entitled to bail, Gloria?
Exactly. But when they give them the bill, to get them back to court, it doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
You won't get them back to court. And then when you even ask the investigators, they only tell you that the person is at large. Even when they have issued a warrant for rearrest. So these are real issues that we are dealing with. Even though the current law says that 7 to 25 years, Ghana is here to ratify the Convention on Harassment. It's actually harassment in the workplace, but it extends to other places as well. But if you go by the Domestic Violence Act as we have it now, and the Criminal Code, it is 7 to 25 years. But the issue is the process does not come to an end, and we do not get access to justice. So when I should speak about my organization, World of Ghana, for example, now we have a project that we call Protect. It's an anti-sexual violence project. So we are looking at protecting and preventing these cases to happen, because once they happen, survivors never get access to justice. And I'm so excited about what you have done. You are looking for support for the survivor now. And then the Bright mentioned that the other issues can follow after that, which is excellent. The police would like to use the Criminal Code and sometimes even ignore the Domestic Violence Act. So they pay attention to the perpetrator. And then the victim or the survivor never get any attention. So this discussion is very important. And I like the perspective Bright brought in, looking for psychological support, looking for a place for young Mausi to finish her education at least, right to her education and right to her survival. These are very important issues that we need to pay attention to. And I hope by the end of this whole discussion until the end of whenever Joy Prime would like to continue, you have a support system sitting in place to support such cases. We have so many of them every day. As I'm talking, a stepfather has abused 3 of his stepdaughters. It's with the police anyway. He has been arrested. But this was just last week.
Wow.
Every day, the issues come in.
Wow. Does that one also have to do with poverty?
It's poverty because they get the opportunity, not all of them. It's when they get sensitized, they get the opportunity to report. But I'm sure when we come into even the other middle class and the rest of them, it's happening. I don't know. We will need, Ebo mentioned the child and family policy. It has to go down to us. I mean, it's a policy. It's at the ministry. Who else know? If we know, how many of us know the content? So we really, really need education on all of these policies, family, child policy, the children's right, the domestic violence act, and also a strong support system in this country.
Right.
Because they're actually happening.
Okay, I think the network issues again. We'll try and reach Gloria again. Let me talk to Bright. Hello, Bright. Hello, Bright.
Yes.
Let's talk about the role of parents, your family, the community in the protection of children.
Well, it's very crucial that we have to look at that environment properly because, as the CHRAJ officer said, there are enough laws that guarantee what we need to do in all these environments. So if you look at our laws, we have created a natural environment for children, and the state has gone further to create artificial environment for children. So if you really want to analyze the law properly, the law is giving meaning to issues relating to children that under no circumstances should a child suffer any setback in relation to their well-being and then their welfare. So the natural environment is guided by a certain principle that once a child finds herself or himself in a natural environment, the basic pillars must provide support, and that is the parent, and then also the society. So in our laws, we have not given a full right to biological parent to have a responsibility over a child. It's a communal responsibility that has been spelled out by the law. So anything that goes on, society must also respond to it, and the home must also have some kind of response and all that. And the law has also made that artificial environment because there are instances where the natural environment cannot provide the needed support for the child welfare and his or her well-being. So that artificial environment has also, we've given that environment also a responsibility to provide some support in circumstances like this. So if you look at the Children's Act, it says that the District Assembly shall take every step to analyze the family and find out whether the family is in a position to support the child. And if the family is not in a position to support the child, the education of the child shall be the responsibility of the district assemblies, and we have that in our laws. So in such circumstances, you expect that these institutions will live up to expectation and take out some of these basic roles given to them by law so that children under no circumstances should go through this kind of ordeal to be able to have access to education. But the reality is that we don't even have the supporting system to administer or manifest some of these responsibilities given to us, especially where within the natural environment, our laws is so silent on how we should regulate the natural environment. So for that matter, by our own omission, we have closed the family system to the extent that it is only when things happen to children that we rush in to find out what is going on. But we have also failed to also make a legislation to have a periodic visit to find out what is happening to children in homes and all that. And under a welfare state, you expect that the family system will be open up for further investigation so that you don't end up getting victims, which is very expensive for you to rehabilitate. but rather you lay more emphasis on preventive measures to ensure that people are alert, people are very cautious, so that they don't even administer some of these punishments, especially in the case of this little girl, what she's going through. If there is a proper investigation, if there's a proper visit, if you open up the family system, these issues can easily be detected and appropriate measures will be given so that we safeguard the welfare of this child. So the system is a bit closed, and what makes it worse is that even the artificial environment is not living up to expectation. When you pick most of the district assemblies plans, you realize that there's a little to say, or there's a little for them to do on welfare of citizens, for this matter, children. So they themselves, whether they don't have the sensitivity to recognize that, or there is the system that they are not aware of what the law requires that they do, or they are intentionally neglecting or not paying attention to that aspect of the law. You cannot say, but that is the kind of realities that we are facing. So in matters like this, for instance, any NGO can decide that they want to support the child, but on a long term, it will be difficult for any NGO to be able to sustain it. But if you have a system that is working, where people provide short-term measures, and then the system takes it over, you guarantee the welfare of children, and children will do things in confidence, and they will also do things in a manner that the state is expect them to. But the reality is that children have to go through a lot to survive. And
we ought to, yes, and we ought to all come together to support the children. Bright, thank you so much, especially for the fact that you said you're going to support this young girl in her education, support her psychologically to be able to write her exams, and also try as much as possible to support whoever her new guardians are to be able to help raise her. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are very grateful, Bright.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Bright Appiah, who is Executive Director for Child Rights International, and he joined us for this particular conversation. Also here, I still have Godfred here. Godfred is from CHRAJ. Godfred, so we'll quickly round up the conversation. The last one is with this auntie who knows about it, but she's not been able to do anything. What happens to her?
Okay, so the criminal law makes provision for some of these things, like when you know the perpetration of a crime and you fail to report, it's in itself is a criminal offense.
Okay.
So when the matter takes off, as it were, if a complaint is lodged with the police and they start their investigation, they also come after her, and then she will be made to answer for her lapses.
Right. Godfrey, thank you so much for being here. We are super grateful. Godfrey Ebo Ahin, public education focal person for CHRAJ Greater Accra, and he joined us as well. And on Zoom, Gloria, thank you so much for joining us, Gloria. We are super grateful. Gloria Kankam is a communication, advocacy and networking manager with Women in Law and Development in Africa. Gloria, your final words before you go.
So my final words is that thank you so much, Joy Prime, for bringing this out. And then to all of us, we need to come on board and find permanent solution. We can have the temporary one, but beyond that, what next? At the moment, if you take a child to even a shelter or an orphanage, the child can be there for up to about 6 months. Beyond that, what's next? So we need to go back to our drawing board. State stakeholders, the key stakeholders, we have to come together and work in a collaborative way. And the district assembly issue came in, there is the issue of lack of resources. And these resources cuts across. Human resource, logistical, financial resource, they are not there. So that makes the work difficult for people. Even though it is there, you don't have the resources. So you're handicapped, you cannot move. And if you don't take care, our children will keep suffering in silence and in pain.
Thank you so much
for bringing. Thank you, everyone.
All right, please have a good day.